Welcome to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner, a show about shifting our individual and collective beliefs on what is possible for the future of humanity. As our understanding of how our reality continues to shift, we are at a point of reunification between science and spirituality. What does the world look like when we break free from the generational trauma that has kept most humans playing small for thousands of years and step into our full power as the co-creators of this reality? I always ask that you keep an open mind with this podcast. Ask yourself what resonates with my truth at this time and what does not. Respect your intuition, but see if you can get through the whole show because there might be that little nugget buried deep in the conversation that unlocks something for you. Welcome back, everybody, to Changing the Channel. I am joined today by Colleen Lindberg. She's a soul mission activator and spiritual guide. Welcome to the show, Colleen.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, as am I. I woke up super excited this morning, had a great meditation, and I just know it's going to be wonderful. So, as a spiritual guide, obviously you're deeply connected to spirit, and we're moving into this period of transition. Well, we're not moving into it. We are in it. We're right in the thick of it, probably. Um, so what do you have? What are some of your insights right now on the ascension? Where are we at in our journey? And, maybe a little bit of where we're moving towards in the coming months.
Yeah. Well, we're like, some people may not like what I'm about to say, but I want to hold it in the purity of its light because it's part of our movement into the purity of light for us to really expand into it, to hold space inside of this. But we're in the middle of a timeline collapse right now. And a lot of you, if you've been following different mentors and spiritual guides that you really are inclined to, it's coming through really hot, we'll call it, in the messaging right now about this choice that we have. So we're souls, right? In this experience in the human body, but we also have the 3D matrix as our infrastructure that we get to play in. So we're playing in both the duality roles right now. And we have access to all things, right? We have access to the lower vibrations. We have access to the higher vibrations. We have access to changing energies in this, like literally with a decision, we can go and move into a different energetic field. And right now, what's coming through, and at least till the end of this year, is where do you desire to be? Like, what's the actual choice that you really want? Like, the life you desire to live, the being you desire to remember that you are, like that purity of energy. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be challenged in this space as well as given the opportunity to step forward and in. So what that means, and it's not meant to be cryptic at all. I'm just putting forth in the messaging of some of us are coming up against some really, really dynamic choices. Some really flow, like, do I actually sacrifice myself and go back into that relationship because it's safe? And it's obviously not safe because that's an illusion. Or do I actually get courage to step into the space to actually go lead the life I really want? Or do I step into that business that my soul's been calling me forward? Or do I stay in this job because it's comfortable and I can rely on the money right now where I need to expand? And these choices in all avenues of our world, our health, our relationships, how we show up, how we learn, how we execute income, how we serve our soul in the connection within that are coming up right now. And the timelines are becoming more and more dominant, meaning there's like almost like a separation that's happening, and you get to choose right now where you want to flow and where you want to be. I'll throw that back at you now, and then we can kind of bounce it back forth because I feel like you got something to say.
Finally, a place for listeners to gather and share. Join the Ascension Update Substack for messages and updates from our brothers and sisters helping with the Ascension, articles on the future of humanity, and a Q&A where you can ask my guides anything you would like. This is the hub for everything Ascension related. Click the link in the show notes or go to joegarner.substack.com to stay at the leading edge of this movement. And now, back to the show. Yeah, so in that space where these timelines are starting to split, right? It feels to me as if it is claustrophobic. We're trapped between these two timelines, and it feels like, for me at least, I'm bouncing back and forth between one timeline and the other timeline, and kind of almost on a daily basis. I feel like
I'm tuned into what, the higher timeline for 2 or 3 days. And then the next 2 or 3 days, I'll be tuned into the lower timeline, and just bouncing back and forth between those two kind of really, uh, almost
Like
completely
opposing almost,
different,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, like
completely opposite forces that I'm experiencing. So any insight on that and how to navigate those waters as we move forward in this
yeah.
continuing splitting of timeline? And as those timelines continue to split further and further, does it start to get a little bit easier, to once you've made that choice, now that timeline that starts to get further and further away isn't as much, doesn't have as much hold on you per se?
Yeah, like you, such great questions, and I love this. So, I even going to throw it into the field. Like in my life right now, the timelines are shifting in minutes, where it's like one thought drops in, and then literally a couple minutes later, it's like the next vibrational thought. Where I'm like, "Where's it come from?" And it's almost like the aspects of ourselves that are meant to be healed right now, that we are meant to look at, that most of the time it's past life stuff. So the timelines are integrating too, right? We can access our past life information. So, and it's, I call it past life because that's what most of us know. Technically, it's our dimensional lives because they're all happening at once, anyways. But we can access these lives immediately. And some of the lessons that we haven't taken or learned from them that we've committed to in those lives and kept committing to in the lives that came about are coming up to be healed. So let's just say we're at this precipice, like let's just say in general in the world, like the question you just asked me about, every couple of days you drop into this one timeline and then you're in another one a couple of days later and you're moving through. A couple ways to maneuver this is like looking at what is actually showing up when you're moving into the lower timeline. You have a fear of something, or you're scared that you're not worthy enough, or you're doubting your ability to step into that, and there's a way there. So let's just say it's doubt, because I just literally cleared it a few days ago with one of my clients. And we went back into a past life where she saw something happen and was doubting that she would be able to hold it now in that life, which then never got healed, and it trickled out into this life. So I asked her the question, is it actually true? Is it true that you da 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 da? And she was like, no. And I'm like, okay, amazing. So what is it going to take for us to move this energy through? And she's like, I'm going to have to step back into the space and do this, this, and this. And I went, amazing. Let's go do that. So then we're able to actually gather the info. So let's just say someone has a fear of actually success, or a fear of not being able to support themselves, right? And inside the space. So they keep reverting back to this past timeline that's easy. We'll say it's not really easy, because most of the time you're trading time for money. You're not working with divine alignment. You're not working in divine abundance. You're actually serving your time for an exchange of income. The old school model of 9 to 5 in the world. That's what it is. And I don't knock it whatsoever at all, because it fits for some of you. And some of you, it juicifies you and you're like, I love my job, and that's amazing and it serves you that way. But there's also a way that we've been conditioned to stay limited in this dynamic of this job function. Like, you come to work and I will pay you what I decide to pay you. And that's the money that you make. And it will be safe and secure and you'll have a good life. Where if you're on the spiritual pathway like we are, we're shifting into timelines here. And we're like, I can see the life I really desire. And I'm not working like this. And everything feels more aligned. And I actually get to serve in my mission. And I'm helping people through my impact. And it's all here. But I don't know how to bridge these worlds, right? We don't know how to bridge them. We don't know how to be in both worlds at the same time.
Right.
Here's what I say. I have one of my clients that's literally transitioning this way. And I said to her the other day, I said, what if you were to be holistically in the space of this work that you do, 9 to 5 work that you do, and be fully there no matter what? If you work 5 hours, 20 hours, 15 hours, 30 hours, but you're in it right there. And in that space of time, when you're dropped in to this lower vibration, we'll say, your job in that space is, sure, you're going to collect your money and you're going to do your thing and you're going to do your job to the highest, integrity. But your job there is, how do I shine my light brighter? How do I take all my spiritual knowing and implement it in? So let's just say that you have a job in retail and someone comes in. How do you emulate light into their field? How do you smile and be because most of the time when we're in this vibration, our life sucks. We don't want to be here. We're thinking about other things. We're disconnected. We're angry. We're whatever we are when we're here, because that's the emotions of playing in this field, especially when we know what this field feels like, right? So it's like, because once you're all in here, then you start to collapse time in this space. You're opening up pathways in here to be able to hold it more. And then when you have space, let's say to create your business and you're in your business and you're going out for clients, you're not taking all this shitty ass energy into this field here. You're taking all the light with you because it's all light and it's all a part of it. Sometimes, like, first few years of my journey in spirituality, I was working part-time, and even in entrepreneurship, when I was a really regimented business coach, I still had a part-time job because I needed that security. Now, granted, looking back now, it was all an illusion and I could talk to you about all of it. But at the time, I thought that that's what I needed, right? And I needed to stay in that security to move through. So I would ask you or the audience the question, if you're feeling this in your life, like whatever the decision is, like I have to stay here because of the kids, or because we have all this debt, or because I don't know how I'm going to make money out of the home if I leave, or, like I keep the weight on because I can't afford groceries or whatever, right? There's an energy moving through. So what if it changed? That's the question I want to ask you. What if in this moment of time you made a decision that story no longer is available for you, and that you get access to a new story, which is technically our timeline? We get access to these stories all the time. What story do you want to play out today? And that would be the energy. And I think I answered all your questions, but I was definitely just in a flow of an experience. So let me know what else you got inside of that.
No, that was beautiful. I think that brings some clarity into this strange time that we're in, as far as bouncing in between these different timelines. And it's fascinating to see that even for you, it's on a moment to moment basis. These
Yeah.
lower vibrational thoughts come in and just pop in randomly, and you're like, oh, shoot, like, should I be listening to this? Is this something that is meant for me, or is this just an old pattern, an old um, you know, neurosynaptic firing that's happening in the human mind that I haven't cured, I haven't gotten rid of, I haven't moved through and allowed that to kind of pass. And just envisioning that life, the joy, the emotions that I feel when I envision the life that I feel like I'm moving towards, it's just to be able to hold that and always remember that, I think, is part of this transition period, is to hold on to those emotions that you get when you're in that higher vibrational state. Because when you open up to those emotions, you kind of open up to the heart, right? And the heart is the magnet that is attracting everything to you. The thoughts go out into the matrix, into the universe. The heart attracts the experiences, the feelings, the experiences, and everything else that needs to come in to have those thoughts come into reality. So when you have that emotional attachment to it, it does seem to, all of a sudden, you're connecting with different people, and they're providing value. They're providing that next little step, that hint that you need to continue down that higher path and move towards that higher path. So it's just a beautiful reminder for everybody, I think.
Well, and like, thank you. That was amazing, and reminding of the heart center. So our intuition, higher self, soul, sacred heart temple, Akashic records, all the things are here. Like, this is where we connect into ourselves, to our soul, our deeper resonance. So the conditioning of the matrix of the earth wants us to think, right? Use our mind. And when we get this into check to work alongside our heart, then that's, like they always say, like, the biggest shadow work is the 18 inches between the mind and the heart, and us allowing our heart to lead and dropping into our heart to be, because most of us have not been taught to lead through this. We've been taught to think our way out of life,
Mm.
right? Think about it. Go to school and learn more. Listen to us. We will teach you what you need to know. And that's what's happening on the earth. And now that we see it, we're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So when we go back here, when we take a moment, we set the tone just like we did before we jumped on, and we breathe into our body and we get present and we allow our heart to open. And then we ask the questions. This is leading. It's not here, the conditioning and all the things that we think we know. It's like, this is the truth right here within us. And sometimes the truth isn't what we want to hear, but it's the truth as long as we're aligned in the heart-centered space. So I love that you brought that up, because this is something we as a human existence are working within. us of us in the collective, the Ascension, the star seeds, the light workers are all working back into connecting here. If we lead here, we're leading in our impact. If we connect through here and this is the truth and we're leading in this truth and we take moments to decide with our heart before we react, everything is true through this center, right? And this is a thing for sure.
It is, yeah, certainly.
Mm.
So how do you recommend and working with your clients, the fact that how do you get out of this mentality? We've all been taught that for the most part, I think a lot of people seem to come to the realization or the idea that, the earth is maybe one of the few places where there is intelligent life that exists on
Mhm.
it. And this is the story that's been told over and over. And we're like, yeah, maybe we're the precipice of the evolution of consciousness that is in the universe at this point. But in reality, we're connected to all these different other timelines, these different species, these different civilizations that exist that have figured this stuff out. So how do you get people out of the mindset of, this is the only existence that we've ever known or could ever have known, and realize that what has happened on Earth is not emblematic of what's happening everywhere else in the universe?
Yeah, like one bite size at a time. So I use the word curious a lot. I say to people that may not believe this, but might. So here's a couple things. If they come to me with this question, they are ready to step into this space. They're ready to do the work. They're ready because I have a lot of gates around my energy field. You can't just walk into my space and be here. And I don't say that from an egotistical perspective. I say that from a protection mechanism protocol that I want to serve the people that are ready to go and that I can lead, that are meant for me to help assist, because we're not assisting everybody. There's no way I could help billions of people, even if they all listen to my podcast. It just wouldn't matter. I know that I am not supposed to. So if they're coming into my field of awareness and asking these questions, then I'm meant to serve them in whatever way I can move with them. So I listen firstly to how are they going to accept the info? What is needed at this time for them to hear to break this open a little bit more so that they can hold it and then move into the next phase so that now they can hold more. So it depends on what we're working within or what the questions are, but I use the word curious. How do we get curious about this? How do we look within to be like, I don't know the answers, but if this was a possibility, what would that look like? And that's the way, and it's almost like bringing us back into play, into our kid-like energy, which has so much more energetics for us to even discuss when it comes to spiritual connection, because we're born remembering it all, but we can't talk. And then we get socialized and conditioned through environments and parents and all the things that by the time we're 3, 4, 5, moving up into the world, it's like, you don't have imaginary friends. You don't really see that. That's not really happening. And then it's distorted in energy and we become part of civilization. Whereas if we're helping our children at young ages to honor that and move it through, then the questions they have and curiosity about the world, we can just discuss in pure light or they give us the answers because they remember it all, right? Moving through. But it's like that curious energy. It's like, well, what if Earth was just one planet in this whole entire dimensional experience? And what if I could tap in to talk to entities on Sirius and I could channel the Lemurians and I could bring Hermes Trace McGintis in here and we could talk about, the Kybalion, and we could go back into Egypt and go have a great time hanging out in the pyramids in this real moment of time. What would that mean? And I just drop nuggets every so often and they'll take what they desire from it. But most of the people that come into my world, especially in one-to-one containers, know my crazy already. So they're like, all right, she speaks light language and she channels all these deities and she does all these things and she lives in a video game and I'm all in for that. Whatever she's got, I'm in.
Right.
But those that are just coming into play, I had a galactic walk-in on my podcast a few months ago, and one of my coaching clients was like, I listened to the whole thing, but I just couldn't believe that a soul could drop into an already body on Earth and just take over the body. In their mind, they couldn't fathom it. But I bet you if I asked her today, 6 months later, what that felt like now, it would be different because she got curious
Mm.
about it. She didn't take it on right away as oh, that's the truth, because that's not the mechanism. We need to find out for ourselves too and discover it through ourselves, that truth. So yeah.
Yeah, there's an idea that, following your curiosity, following your passion, your highest passion in life leads you to discover what you're here to do, discover what you're meant to be, discover who you're meant to be. Bashar talks a lot about this in his channelings where, you're basically meant to connect with what brings you the most joy, the most happiness, and that is basically a guide to figuring out what your life's purpose is meant to be. And I think that's fascinating. And it kind of goes along exactly with what you're saying. It's like, what are you curious about? What brings you curiousness, and then continue to follow that. And yeah, I think that's something that, from my perspective, especially, I'm only 2 years into this spiritual journey. It's a little difficult to find that curiosity, because for me, my curiosity is this connection to channeling aliens. And I talk about it every once in a while on other people's shows, and I've shared it a little bit on this show, but my ability to channel Arcturian and Pleiadian energies, and um, there was a guy, his last name's Perez, and he talks about, the evolution of life starting 500 billion years ago, and how it's kind of evolved, and all the different beings that have been involved in this evolution. And that really, that I find that so interesting. So it enamored me for a while, but I had no idea why. I had no idea that I was connected to some other race of beings, and I've incarnated here to help with the shifting consciousness of the planet. And it's fascinating to kind of get into and understand all of this stuff.
I feel like I want to connect you to a friend of mine. His name's William. And he's like way out there. Like he's like way out there. And when we started doing a bit of work together, because I really wanted him to own his uniqueness, because just like yourself, most of us wouldn't speak that into the world, because we would be like, are you sure? Like, is this real? Like, what? Like, I like Arcturian and Palladian and tapped into that. He's meant to help 11,000 souls that are specific in a certain energy. And I feel like I got to connect you guys together, because he's like way, well, I don't even know the verbiage that he uses or some stuff that he does. Cause he's just like, and I'm like, you need to own this. Like, just your people are looking for you. Like, it's almost like he's like helming a ship, like, and I
Hmm.
just see him and I'm like, you got to step in. So there's something there, and I don't know what it is. Like, maybe it's him coming on your podcast. Maybe it's you guys just being friends. I don't know. But like, there's something in that I'm going to definitely lean into. And each of us has a pathway. And that's the thing I really want to emphasize with what you just said is like, we're all here meant to do something, right? And we have our roots and our skill sets and our energies, and all of us are moving through our growth, expansion, and our energetic fields. And when it's here, it's the hardest part, I think, of all of this is to trust that we're going to be supported, that we can let go, that we can surrender, and that everything's going to be okay. Like, we're going to be able to eat and pay our bills and stay in our homes and do all the things leading a life through the heart. But we need to always remember too, when we do that, we're in divine abundance alignment, divine birthright, right? So we've been conditioned as humans to think that it's scarcity, lack, we got to work hard, we got to do all these things. When we align through the soul's mission, then we are aligned in divinity. And when we're aligned in divinity, we have access to all the ethers, all the dimensional energies, and everything. We are the creator of our life. So it's like remembering that potency. I don't channel Arcturians or Palladians, but I honor you for that. I'm more like Ascended Masters, goddess energy, like Isis and me are like BFFs.
Nice.
Yeah, I work a lot with Mary Magdalene, and I channel a lot of Ascended Masters more so than I do, let's say, other dimensional like soul groups and stuff. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and from my perspective, the ascended masters are energetically, they've probably lived all of those other
Oh,
civilizations as well. They're just ascended masters on this planet, and we can,
yeah.
they mastered the Earth matrix, so they were able to graduate from this school, and they come back and give us lessons and share their perspectives and what helped them along. But does it feel like, even though they ascended from this specific matrix, the school that they were attending versus the school that we're in right now is fundamentally different. Like, living in the time of Jesus versus living today, fundamentally that school is completely different. And it does seem like, again, I can't speak, I wasn't there, but it does seem like this particular time, the reason that we've all incarnated here at this particular time is because it is an incredibly difficult period in human history, in the existence of humanity. And that's why we're all here. That's why all the ascended masters are coming back to the planet. That's why all of these beings from other civilizations are coming to help this transition, this period of evolution in consciousness on the planet. And maybe you can speak to a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's so fun is the other day I got connected to a client from another client, and she said, something's going on. Like they were working together in a certain container. I just feel like you need to be connected. So when I started talking to her, she needed an Akashic Records clearing. There was some shit going on in her field. And I was like, I'm going to step in, and help her. I dropped into her records and I realized she is Mary Magdalene incarnated.
Mm.
So Mary's only been incarnated. Now I'm calling her Mary. Obviously, her soul is a different vibration, and she went by Mary at that life that we all know her to be inside of a space. But she's only incarnated 11 times, including the time we knew her at Mary, and including this time now on Earth. So 9 other times in this time span. And it's so interesting to feel and to see this human that has Mary's soul in her is actually doing quantum healing work. And she does it the same way Mary did it back when she was incarnated. So Mary used to hear people through her eyes, and she would just be able to look at you and pull the demonic energy out or whatever entity was there and literally clear your energy field in real time, like just by looking at you.
Hmm.
This client of mine literally closes her eyes and sees her patients lying there, and she could see where the distortion is, and she just pulls it out of their field. And I went to her, like, this is what Mary used to do, but she did it this way in this time period. So we're seeing the Ascended Masters we know to be Ascended Masters as energies actually incarnated right now on Earth because of what you exactly said. The Earth energy is so uncalibrated now. The darkness or the shadow is so rampant that we're seeing it now, that they're actually just speaking it out loud into the world. Like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. And the times where, let's say, Isis and Hathor and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and Green Tara and Kuan Yin and, all the ones we know, Yeshua and Muhammad Avatar Babaji and like the Ascended Masters we know, Saint Germain, Joseph, all of them were actually incarnated in human form. The shadow wasn't as rampant. It was still here, but it was almost like we had grips on the light. And over the years, it just started moving. And they started killing off all these people and taking out the witches and taking out the holistic practitioners and muting things and distorting relics and making people believe certain stuff and taking history out of what it actually was. And they started changing it all. And then in the 80s, I feel something shifted in the space of the 80s. What actually happened? I don't know. I was born in 81, so maybe it was me, but I'm just kidding. But something happened in the 80s and it all of a sudden started opening. And then we started seeing this happen. So then the people started coming back to Earth and we saw the indigo children really coming into the space of time. And then the crystals and the rainbows and all the other, what we call gifted kids started dropping in to change the vibration of the Earth. And we started watching it start to move. So that's why, yes, ETs are coming down. We're channeling in more real time. We're connected deeper. Our quantum healing abilities have been heightened. All of the old school, let's say, mystic school teachings are coming to play. Our light language has been activated. Like we can telepathically communicate better, and we're in awareness of it now. So it's actually, I call it the Academy Awards of soul experiences. It was like we were in line, like, look at me. I want to go in. Come on, let me go in. I want to go in. Because literally it is like this. There's never been a time on Earth like this, except for a few times, like when Atlantis fell or when Lemuria kind of fell apart, or whatever we want to call it. But this time right now is a pivotal time in humanity's existence. And you're going to watch it. If we have history books 25 years down the road, maybe it will talk about it. Probably won't. Some other people are in control of the history books, but we'll all know,
So let's talk a little bit about that. Like the transition is going to happen, but many, a number of people aren't even going to realize what happened. Like this transition between this very dark, very dense energy and this the basically awakening of this higher, more light, less dense energy. And how does that kind of play out for people who aren't who are completely unaware of what's going on.
Yeah. So like I battle in an energy speaking to this and the only reason why I say it like that is because every single soul has a contract on this earth. And some of the souls contracted to never wake up. Okay. So, and some of them contracted to be part of the elitists in the shadow. And then others of us have contracted to wake up somewhere along the line and step into our space. Like I've been doing this work connectedly for 14 years, purposefully against my intuition for years before that, which was a whole fun endeavor of my whole entire life. That was good times. I got a lot
Mm.
of amazing stories, in connection with that. I was like, who let me go off on my leash? Like who had my leash and who wasn't supporting me? I'm totally kidding, but I'm kind of not into that space of time. So what's about to happen is if you see somebody, like, let me give you guys this imagery, like someone walking down the street with their phone and they're on their phone and they're walking and all this stuff is happening around them, but they're not paying attention to because they're so focused on their phone. So there's going to be some people like that they're going to come out of it and they're not even going to notice that there's a difference around them, or they're going to look around and be like, oh, it looks a little bit brighter out today. Is the sun shining for once in 100 years because they've been blocking the sun, and like that energy. And then they'll just keep going on with their life. Where some people are going to be totally taken out and they're going to be removed from the earth experience in whatever way that looks like and whatever facet that is, and taken out. And some of us are going to be sitting on the other sidelines, clapping our juice or tea together because most of us probably decided not to have alcohol any longer. And we're going to be celebrating the movement of what just happened. And we're going to look at it and there's going to be people that have no idea. And we're going to have family members in our life that had no clue, but we went to war. We went to war for humanity, and not in a war of like guns war, in a war of light. That we did our work, we stepped into our shadow, we abolished the fear, we abolished the doubt, we kept moving and we gritted in and we had the courage to speak and we spoke the truth and we launched the products and we trusted that they would come in and we did the work and we did the work and we did the work and we did the work. And every single light person on this earth doing the work amplified the light, which then dismantled it all. But we've got to be on our lanes and we've got to trust that the lane we're being called to is the lane and then be all in that lane, all in. And it doesn't mean you can't have part-time things or do this or that, but you've got to go in the awareness of looking at it going, hey, I know I'm being called here. Okay, what does this mean? What needs to happen now? Am I showing up in this light? Am I all in my power? Because most of us are dibble-dabbling. We're like, I'm started all in, started out today. Maybe I'm in plan B. But it's like, no, it's like, it has to be potent. And when we lead in the potency of the light, then it will all start to collapse. But some people will never know, Joe. They will never know and they will never have a clue. And it's okay. That's part of their role on the earth. We can't have everybody. We can't. Even though some people are like, new earth and everyone's coming and it's going to, I'm like, dude, we're not getting them all. We're not. So we got to find our people and be with our people and keep accelerating with our people that then opens up more for the other people. But some of them will never get it. Never.
That's fascinating to
Yeah.
even just to contemplate the idea that there's going to be billions of people who experience this shifting consciousness on the planet and just have no idea. And I could certainly understand that too, because if I was 25-year-old Joe and this shift in consciousness happened, I would have no freaking clue. I would have had no idea whatsoever. I would have been, still going to the bars. I would have still been, so focused on so many other things besides anything to do with spirituality or the ascension or consciousness or anything like that I could certainly understand. And I think what I struggle with is that from a linear perspective, it feels like, okay, like you hit a certain age and you're supposed to be at this level, and you hit another age and you're supposed to be at this level. And I've very much found out that that's not the case, that we're
No.
all experiencing this all at different time frames,
Yep.
different perspectives, different ways, different awakening processes. My awakening process was like a snap. It just happened one day. I don't know why it happened, but I know that it did happen. And I know that it happened for a reason.
Yeah.
And I've spent two plus years trying to figure out exactly why it happened and what I'm here to do. And I'm continuing that process and just
Yeah.
having these conversations and putting them out into the world and, doing a podcast about something that I don't honestly know exactly where it's going, whether the podcast is something to do with it or this is just a part of the process of me becoming comfortable enough to start sharing ideas with other people. Who knows what this is, but it's been a fun thing. I know that I enjoy these conversations, so I'm going to continue to pursue it with as much vigor as I possibly can.
Yes. And I love this because I think sometimes too, like a couple things you just said is like the conditioning inside of our space of like we think that we need to be at a certain place by a certain age. And that's the mechanism of the old world energy. Like it's like follow our guide, go to work 9 to 5, then have kids and do all this. And then make sure your kids are in all these extracurricular activities so they feel connected to themselves. And then you don't have any time to actually be quiet and remember what's important. And that's what we've been taught and trained within. And it's not good or bad. It's just a reflection of what the life is. So then we get to these ages, like I'm 42, even though most people don't believe me, but that's what my driver's license says. Apparently I'm 42. And I live in a world that I'm single. I haven't had kids. I live in Costa Rica. I moved here on my own. I moved here by myself, and all of the mechanisms that some people can't understand. I work online. I do well in my job functions. Like I make 6 figures plus as a spiritual mentor, and it blows some people's minds that I can actually have a 6-figure a year revenue when I'm like, wait till I get to 1 million. I'm just like, what are you going to say about it now? Clearing, activating, talking about channeling, psychic stuff. Like it's actually a whole lot of fun. And it fuels my heart to lead this way. And I know this is where my impact is. So this is the thing to know too, that we've all been taught we have one purpose. We're here for a purpose. And we think it's one when it expands with us. So our job is to find the first key and to be like, oh my God, I'm in the key. This is it. This is where it is. And to lead in the key. And then we're going to get given the next step and the next step. And yeah, my mission on earth is to light lights. But what that means in 10 years from now, I don't know. Here's what I know it means today. And it's like, I'm all in this movement of, like, I call them the light warriors. My job is the light warriors who are ascended masters incarnated on earth. That's my job. Okay. And I didn't know this until last week when I met this woman. And then all of a sudden my other clients dropped in. I'm like, oh my God, that's the ascended master of this. And I'm like, so I'm finding them. I'm finding them. And now I'm like, oh, so my job is to get them to remember who they are, get them to lead confidently in that lane and in their power, and to own their truth and to keep moving. That's my job right now. That's my mission on earth right now. That's what I'm meant to do on earth right now. What I'm meant to do in a year's time from now, I don't know. But I'm just going to keep following the call and keep stepping in and keep trusting. And the more I trust, the more beautiful everything becomes. Yet I have to keep dismantling my mind because my mind wants to control. My mind's like, that's never going to work. And my mind's like, remember right before we were recording, your collective membership is not going to go anywhere. It's going to fall apart. I'm like, who's talking to me? Like that voice in our head is the one that's trying to keep us contained and safe. When I'm like, no, I'm going to lead through here. What? We're launching this? Are you crazy? Yep. Okay, fine. I'm going to listen. And I've learned through the years and I just keep listening. Because when I don't, I get into actually way more trouble. Like I get into like circumstances that is like, you should have listened. I'm like, shh, I should have listened.
Yeah.
So now I'm just listening.
Right. And I'm
But
sure
yeah.
that's a process as well to
Oh God.
fully trust and embody and to understand the difference between, the egoic mind and the heart speaking to you, and then trusting that, okay, well, the heart, it doesn't make sense up here, but
Mm.
it feels good. And I know that this is probably my path and this is what I should be doing. But yeah, just overcoming that fear, that resistance, that frustration that you feel because it doesn't make sense from a logical standpoint. Now, one thing that has been coming through for me is balancing this spirituality and physicality, the mental and the emotional. Basically trying to find that balance between the two, because you come across people who are deep on their spiritual path, and they're not in tune with their physical body. They're not in tune with how the world works, and maybe that does play out well for them. I don't really know, but can you speak to finding that balance and how balancing the physicality, the fact that you have a physical body, you are a human, but you're also a spiritual emanation that has come from a trillion years of existence to incarnate into this single physical body, and balancing those two completely opposite ideas so that you can A, function in the 3D matrix that we call the earth, and B, continue on your soul's path, your soul's mission.
Yeah. So we have both sides, right? We have the very rooted in humanness, which a lot of the collective is right now. They're human. They're not experiencing spirituality. They're not open to spirituality. They don't meditate. They don't even understand connecting with nature, all the things, right? We have that side. Then we have the completely opposing side, like you talked about, the breatharians that are up living in a mountain thinking that they need to escape life and just be spiritual beings, not eating. So both of these extremes are not honoring duality. They're not. So sure, you can go have an experience and you can go on a 7-day fast and, go breathe with ayahuasca in these 7 days and move it through. But to sustain this on earth, why would you incarnate?
Right.
Seriously, why would you incarnate? There's no reason for you to be incarnated right now. We are incarnated to hold the human body, to experience the human body, to go through the emotions of the human body, and to learn from our experiences. Now, a couple key things is that if we're really over on the human side, then we're not actually in alignment with our purpose. And if we're really over in this side of spirituality, then we're not aligned with the actual human form. And both dualities are necessary. We need them both for this experience. So you may find me some days meditating for a couple of hours in the day and just grounding in or going into nature or really taking that time. But I work out every single day. I eat conscious food that helps serves my body. I clear my energy all the time. Orgasms are a big thing too, like because of releasing of energy and making sure that I have flow within all the systems in my body inside of that space. Somatic releasing, breath work, using the body to help move energy is imperative when we're clearing energy, when we're activating energy, when we're discovering more of our energetic field, because the body can't hold it. We need to move it through. So allowing the human to play and allowing the emotions to come up. Most of us have been taught to just put them under the rug or just push them back down or don't deal with it or you can't cry or all the things that we've been taught, allowing the body to release. Because if the body needs to release anger, fear, you want to scream and roar and do whatever you need to do, it's got to come through the body in order for you to hold the expansion and the light codes and the energy coming through. So both dynamics are important to this evolution on this earth experience. How we communicate, how we step in, how we show up for our physical form. Like if my body is not at its peak health at this moment of time, whatever that means, then I can't fully do the work, whatever that is. Right. So both play out, both are needed. We need, and I say need with the context of you don't need to do anything, but in the context of this beautiful experience we're on, it's going to be highly suggested that you blend both worlds. Like, I go to the gym, I work out with weights on Sundays and like 2 to 3 times a week, I do yoga. In the yoga part, yeah, it's a physical task, but it's mostly too to remind me to ground into my physical form and to keep me here on this earth, right? So both are needed. And for a long time, I rebelled against both. I rebelled maybe over the human side or I rebelled against the spiritual side. And now with all the work that I've done over the last few years in my own field, I need both to come together. And I'm watching peace come out naturally. And I'm watching love flow through me naturally because both are connected in this wholeness of whatever that is. So,
Right. Yeah. The heart does balance the higher chakras and the lower chakras. It's that gateway in between
yeah.
the physicality, your root chakra, the existence of your physical being, and the crown chakra, the gateway to the spiritual. And your heart sits right in the middle. There's a reason there's 7 chakras, and the heart is the 4th one. It's literally the balance between spirituality and physicality, or your thinking mind and your feeling mind. And that balance there tends to, I think it doesn't always, but it tends to lead to situations where you find alignment, where you live your purpose, where you find um the purpose in your life, and then continue to live from that purpose instead of only focusing on the physicality or the spirituality, and saying that that's my purpose in life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all of it blended together. And if we run away from one side or the other, then we're not playing in like the laws of the universe, which is one of the laws is polarity, right? We have both. So if we swing too far the other side, it has to come back this way. So it has to. It's part of the law. It's like it's not even something I created or I think about. It's literally a law that's part of the earth experience. So yeah, it's intense sometimes when we're way over here and all of a sudden we got to come back in. It's like, sorry, like you got to go all the way back again.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting to see it that way. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
from your perspective over the next couple of months, next couple of years, what does society really start to look like? Where are we moving towards from a yeah, I think we're definitely on the pathway towards a global society, the understanding that we're all together on this planet and we have to work together for it to work. Otherwise, we'll end up just destroying ourselves. So what does society start to look like as we move and transition towards this global society? And from my perspective, it's not this one single body that we're all a part
Yeah.
of, right? We're a part of the earth, but we all have our individuality existing still. And that I think that's an important aspect because there does seem to be a portion of humanity who wants us to move towards autonomous robots that's all we do. We get up, we go to work, we come home, we don't think about anything, and that is it. And eventually, they want to download our consciousness into robots and then do away with the whole human aspect of our physicality. And that doesn't seem like the right pathway to go down. It is a pathway to go down, but it's not a fulfilling pathway, and it's not a pathway where you learn the lessons that you've been sent here to learn. So what is your perspective
Yeah.
on society as we evolve and continue towards this?
Well, obviously we play in free will. So we've all just depends on how much of the people buy into certain things that sway certain stuff over. But you're right in connection with I think our hearts now, for those of us doing the work, are more open to see different dynamics of the world where we may have been taught that, we're Canadian or we're American and that's it. And we don't open ourselves up to the possibility of other integrations, of other communities. Like I'm watching here in Costa Rica, like my respect for the people. Like if you have a worker working on your property and you go talk to the worker, they stop and look at you and talk to you in presence. And then when you're done, they'll continue working. And at first, us as Canadians were like, why are they multitasking? Why did they stop working? Da, da, da. But it's the reverence of the, like literally our hearts connecting. I want to be present in this experience with you. And that taught me so much about opening up my mind to certain things. Like in North America, we've been conditioned to be in a certain way. And we come to these other countries that I live here in Costa Rica. And I'm like, wow, there's so much to this. Like Pura Vida, like we call it Tico time. Like literally they take their time. And it's like, why are we rushing through life all the time in this space of thinking we need to do more? Right.
Mm,
So, yes, to the collective coming together, but also yes to not conforming in a certain infrastructure that people want to keep us collapsed in a box and tell us how to live. That's not how it's going to be. It's a unity of energy moving together to heal, to accelerate, to literally like maneuver into the space of creating. And some people will never get it, but I'm tapped into so many people across the world now that it's like, those people are holding an energy for the rest of their country. And these people are holding an energy for the rest of their country. And we're all kind of in that space of seeing our hurts now. But 2024 is going to be a very dark year. So what's happening now in the collective is we're choosing a timeline, but this darker low vibration timeline is still playing out in the field. And most people are like, it's over. I'm like, it hasn't even started.
mm,
Like it's going to get dark. So what's about to happen is if we haven't done the work within ourselves, it's going to accelerate the shadow within us. And we're making choices, just like I said before, of timelines we want to play out on. We do not have to play in this timeline that's happening in the dark. Our job actually as light workers, as light warriors, as whatever we want to call us, third seats, is to literally accelerate our light enough so that it keeps breaking open this darkness. But we're going to see it in North America a lot. We're going to see it in some of the other countries that are right now cultivating this energy for us. We've heard them through, different dynamics of what's happening in their countries. It's going to start to snowball. And a lot of people are going to be in fear, and a lot of people are going to drop into doubt, and a lot of people are going to drop into conformity again. So the one thing that I'm going to have like to say to everybody, including myself, is that which timeline do you want to play on? I can become a millionaire in the dark ages. I can, and you're going to watch it happen because I believe that this is true. I believe I can still hold well when some of the world systems are collapsing. I can still shift people. I can still like expand. I can still do my work and be here. I choose not to play in this timeline. So 2024 is going to be a choice of timelines, and you get to choose where you want to play, right? And it's more expanded. It's going to show you even more. Like it's going to keep going like this, and you're going to be like, I'm over here. Like I can go get lost in the jungle and take care of myself there. Like I can live off the land, and yeah, maybe I am not going to shower, but I have a river. Like all the things that we think we need. Like I could drop back into like before civilized time and just live with the earth. I could do that, right? And hold space there, even though I don't have an air conditioner. Like, it'd be okay, right? And live in that if it ever came to that. But I don't feel it will unless people choose destitute and they choose to stay there. Our job as the light workers are, how do we get more people over here? How do we keep shining brighter? How do we keep spreading love? How do we keep the message going through? It's not the time for us to help pull back. It's the time for us to gas pedal in 2024. We're going to start to see it move in 2025. The light's going to start to spread. Things are going to start to shift. 2026 is going to be an even brighter year. And by 2027, as long as the light workers don't succumb to this energy, we'll be out of this mixture by that year. So it's just the pace that we're in. And some people are like, why can't it happen in real time? Well, it can in my mind, because I'm going to be living over here and it will. But the rest of humanity has to follow in that space too.
Right. We're all living our own personal reality, and eventually it comes up to this whole collective reality that we're all experiencing. But
Yeah.
it's an individual choice for each one of us to decide which reality, which timeline do we want to focus on? Do we want to move towards? Do we want to live and experience? And for some people, there's just no awareness of any other timeline other than the one that they're tuned into right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's going to be an interesting period for sure. We incarnated here for this exact experience. And I think that's a good reminder. And I have to remind myself of that all the time. It's like, you chose this. You made this decision to come here and play this role and, decide whether you wanted to play a big role in the transition of consciousness or play a small role in the transition of consciousness. You get to decide that. But I know fundamentally deep down, I'm here to play a much larger role than I'm playing right now, and continuing to expand that and see where it grows and understand what keeps showing up for me as I continue to listen to that little whisper, that little voice that's telling me, hey, I'm your heart speaking. Where do here's where we need to go, and just continue to listen to that voice.
So true. And it's like, it's the hardest part. Like I talk about surrendering all the time, and I swear it's the hardest. It is, because there's no tactile evidence until we actually do it, and then it shows up. And I watch people. It's a conscious decision every day. Okay, I'm going to trust. Okay, my bank account says $5. How am I going to pay my rent tomorrow? And instead of moving into the how and all the things that we think we need to do, you drop in and trust. And so it goes against the grain of everything we've been taught, right? The thinking mind. But I have watched this happen in my world and other people's worlds, that it's like all of a sudden $1,000 lands in your account, or a client messages you that says, hey, I got connected to you through this friend. I want to do this thing that they did. And it's like $2,000. And they're like, I want to pay in full today. And you're like, oh my, and it's like, and it lands and it's the coolest thing when it happens. And then it happens again. And then you're like, okay, I think this is a thing, I think that this is actually real. And then it's like you start to change the mechanism, but it starts with small stuff. Like it really does, like the small things, and tuning in and dropping in and continuing to trust. But I really want to emphasize, we are the creators of our own reality. You have the stick shift. You are in charge every single day. Every day, you are in charge. And you can make a decision right now to change your whole entire mechanism, your whole entire life, by deciding today and then stepping in and holding that energy. Everything could change.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wonderful place to leave off. A very exciting place to leave off. And I think hopefully inspiring to anybody who has made it this far into the show. So, Colleen, I really appreciate you coming on. If somebody feels called, they want to work with you, they know that they're a starseed, a light worker, somebody who is ready to be activated, where can people reach out? What's the best place to find you?
Yeah, my playground is Instagram, so you can search for me there. It's BTHE Colleen Lindberg. So first and last name. And you can message me there. Come see some of the content I move into the world. But yeah, that's kind of where I play.
Beautiful. Well, I really appreciate this conversation. Looking forward to hopefully doing this again, maybe in a couple months, maybe in 6 months, and just see where the collective is at that point.
Yeah, I'd love to. And Joe, thank you so much. And for like literally holding the space in this platform and for all of us to be able to come together here. I'm just really grateful for that too. So I just want to honor you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you again for listening to Changing the Channel with Joe Garner. If you enjoyed the show, please follow the podcast, hit the bell to know when a new show comes out, share with a friend, and rate us on whatever platform you're tuning in from. It helps get these messages out to more people to create the collective shift in reality we are here to experience. Make sure you interact with the Q&A and poll sections of the show so I can continue to provide content you enjoy. Finally, check out my website in the show notes to become a VIP of Changing the Channel and join the shift that is happening.